welcome everybody to another edition of Carolina Poets. Happy National Poetry Month. If you're a poet, you're probably pretty exhausted at this point from doing lots of great readings and residencies at schools and all sorts of special Zoom events. But at Carolina Poets, we're very excited to present The Watering Hole tonight. And they're going to bring to us three poets. Candace Wiley actually curated the event. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her on. But I just want to announce Carolina Poets will be taking a hiatus over the summer. And then we will see everyone back here in the fall. So if you do not see us on a Tuesday or Thursday next month, it's just because we're on summer vacation. But without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Candace. Hey, Candace, how are you?
Hi, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Well, great. I'm excited to have you. And thank you for curating this wonderful group of poets. Can you tell us a little bit about The Watering Hole for those that aren't familiar with it?
So The Watering Hole is a home for poets in the South, right? So New York has everything, LA has everything, Chicago has everything. We already know this. And part of the effort of The Watering Hole is to make the South have these things too. We are already doing this work. Where can we kind of gather together and just build these Harlem Renaissance spaces in the new contemporary South?
Awesome. And you guys do a lot of workshops with poets, don't you?
We do workshops, retreats. We also work with, young kids, not since the pandemic, but we work with the youth all the way up to adults. And our mission is to build better poets. So whatever stage you're at, we want to help you find your path through that, even if that means helping you, giving you some steps to help build your career.
Mm-hmm. And if folks want more information, where can they go online to kind of connect with you guys?
TWHpoetry.org.
TWHpoetry.org. And y'all are just The Watering Hole on Facebook, I think.
Facebook, yes, we're The Watering Hole. On Instagram and Twitter, we are TWH Poetry.
Awesome. Well, great. Well, I'm going to get off the stage so that you can introduce your first reader for the day, because I'm so excited to hear these phenomenal poets. Thank you so much, Candace.
Thank you. So one of the things about The Watering Hole is at the end of our annual retreat in December, the 26th through the 30th, we invite all of these, facilitators to teach our poets whatever they want to teach about craft. And we have spoken word workshops, we have written word workshops, we have like different ways to engage the page. And at the end, we have a fish fry and we have our final reading. So this kind of feels like having a little bit of a taste of that final reading, where everybody gets to just show the work that they came up with during the retreat. It gets really lit, really energetic, like a room full of people just like feeling the things that you're saying. And one of our lineup of three, one of our newest fellows is Ajanae. So I'm going to bring her up first. Ajanae Dawkins is a poet, performance artist, and educator. She has been published in the Breakbeat Poets, Black Girl Magic Anthology, The Offing, Tinderbox Poetry Journal, Winter Tangerine, and the Blue Shift Journal, with work forthcoming in Rumpus. Her work has also been featured on For Harriet, Def Jam, and Button Poetry. Ajanae is the winner of the Tinderbox Poetry Journal's Editor Prize and a winner of George B. Hill's Poetry Prize. She is a finalist for the Cave Canem Toy Derrickott and Cornelius Eady Chapbook Prize. She's a fellow of The Watering Hole Writer Retreat and Pink Door Writers Retreat. Ajanae is currently host for Versus Podcast along with her homie Brittany, the anthology editor for Eco Theo Review, Nancy Craig Blackburn Fellow at Randolph College, and an Alford Scholar at Methodist Theological School of Ohio. This woman is very busy, but I'm going to let her get on the mic and go ahead and flow, and I'll step back.
Thank you so much, Candace. It's also so good to see Candace's face. You have no clue. You have no clue what The Watering Hole means and has meant for me and lots of other folks. So I'm happy to be here. I'm going to read some poems and get out of y'all's hair. I am writing a lot about my mom. These days, I'm working on a collection / thesis. I guess thesis that's going to feed into being a collection. And yeah, it's predominantly about my relationship with my mother and about motherhood and daughterhood in general. It also kind of deals a bit with the ethics of storytelling, and what does it mean that I've always been the storyteller and in my family. And so I've been the person writing about my mom and writing about these things that I witness, and kind of uh, giving apologies instead of asking permission. So we'll start here. This first piece is called I've Always Been Good at Poems. I've always been good at poems because I couldn't run from home or make my tongue an audible blade, but I could write about what I overheard, fists slurred against wall and body, God's name, the police at the door. Because she couldn't run, it felt good to say, you chose that man we all hated. And they gave me medals for how good I could betray my mother. And betraying my mother got me into college. Betraying my mother paid for my time abroad. Betraying my mother made me so accomplished, even she was proud. Betraying my mother paid so much money that I gave her a cut. I counted the bills in my childhood room and listened to her crying next door. This next poem is called What I Don't Need Memory to Know. What I don't need memory to know, the way the ocean belongs to sperm whales and God. Some live between my body and your mind, above my left eye, a hairless river strip. I'm going to pause for 2 seconds just for context. This poem, if you can see on the camera, I have this like scar on my face. And when I was like, I don't even know if I was 1 year old yet, my babysitter dropped me down the stairs. And my mom has like very few memories of my childhood, but she remembers very vividly. If you ask her to tell any story about me as a baby, this is the story she tells, about how I got this scar on my face. So I was dropped down the stairs, and then I acted such a fool at the hospital when I had to get stitches that they had to put me in a straitjacket, which is something we can laugh about now, but my mom talks really frequently about how terrified she was. So, okay. What I don't need memory to know, the way the ocean belongs to sperm whales and God. Some live between my body and your mind, above my left eye, a hairless river strip, nameless scar. You explain, the babysitter dropped you down the stairs. In leisure, you recall my blood. The doctors put you in a straitjacket. You were just a baby, you say, and you looked at me like I'd betrayed you. Time turns your wet eyes into a mouth spilling laughter like a tributary. What I don't need memory to know. If I start bleeding now, you will come running. You will come. Your body sobbing, you a row of golden stitches, your needle voice. You thread water memory through its singing eye. If I start bleeding now, you will make yourself a gun. One blessed bullet in the chamber. If I start bleeding now, you will also start bleeding. You will mend me first. On bloodstains, you use cold running water. Soak if it settles. We share a line of wounds invisible to the eye. You can feel them, shaped like waning moons we wade on their edge. Oh, blood tide, tether, I have your eyes. Oh wow, I'm sharing all new poems tonight, which is cool. This poem is after Brittany Rogers. It's one poem that's a part of a growing sonnet crown that I have. A sonnet crown is traditionally 15 sonnets. where the final line repeats in the next line of the next sonnet. I'm doing like a half crown, which is like 7. But yes, so the epigraph, it says, so the title is called No One Teaches Us to Be Daughters. And the epigraph says, I'm not going to lie. She would leave the house, and I went into her room and looked out the window and saw her car go down the driveway, and I marched myself right into her bathroom and started taking clothes. What I like to do is put them in my closet and live with them as if they were mine. And that is Tracy Ellis Ross talking about going through Diana Ross's closet, her mother, and taking her clothes. Here is a universal tradition. When the house was so quiet, you could hear your hips settling wider, your voice tuning to your mother's pitch. You steal her highest heels from her closet's long throat. Yes, her good dress you slink into, your curves smaller and riding the fabric. Sometimes you pinch with pins, tie in the back, hike up the length of your thigh, this ritual in front of your mother's mirror. You look almost like a woman, but for your knocking knees, but for your flesh heart uninterrupted in its pulsing. Your awkward and unsexed body performs desire with no memory. And I think I'm going to read 2 more poems and be out of your hair. I feel like a lot of us have this experience where we're like talking with our parents or grandparents, and like it doesn't matter how long we've been adults. It's like the moment where like it's validated that you're an adult in their eyes. And so this is a poem kind of about that. It's called Happy Hour with My Mother. I knew I was grown when we swapped virginity stories at the bar. 2 sweet pomegranate martinis against our lips, a neon sign humming on the wall. Once you two made love for the first time. We have both made terror and other things. Remember, at 16, you put my hand on the Bible to swear I hadn't made love. I'm grown and can confess I've made more. I've made fog, flower fields, green. I've made honey and slug. I've made winter trees. I've made another self within myself. I've made ghosts who would haunt the men who were making with me. Between the ghosts, I made idols of love. Oh, golden calf, right now the vodka in my blood is making something against loneliness. I didn't lie. It was years until I could make love, and when I did, I made more. And okay, I lied. I'm gonna do 2 more poems because one of them is incredibly short. This poem's called God Bless the Child, and the epigraph reads, my mother sang with me in her stomach. I sang with Bobby Chris in my stomach. I believe the child starts to develop within, and whatever you read, whatever you think, whatever you do affects the child, and that is Whitney Houston. It didn't shake my faith, but I remember asking God to turn the lights in her brain back on. I knew what God said about tongues, so I kept my fear quiet as oil on cloth. Lord, I don't know how much water her lungs drank, but send her back to her body. I knew who didn't know God because they said she was dead before she was. Our mothers give us our sea legs and we water dance in the womb. People forget God knew us before the women who carried our gurgling songs. Whitney sang her here. I still think of her asking God to be clean for gills, for her mother's voice. And closing poem. It's called Final Poem for My Mother. I betrayed you. It's not that simple, but it is. Every day I can see more of myself, my erratic beauty, my sick brain, my cruelty growing visible from beneath my gums. I am nauseous with regret and in love with the possibility of mending. It's impolite to say, but if you die now, I'll never forgive myself. This is no eulogy. I'm building the love of our future. I'm crafting you a tongue. I'm gathering ears. I'm sewing my mouth shut with a steady hand. I know now I know how memory is communal and not a gun. I want to archive your heart's largest valve, your decision to be a mother, all your secret dreams. I can't yet buy you a house, but I can build you a language without shame. Please forgive me for who I was, and I will forgive myself for wanting to make daughters. Knowing what I know now, I can love you better. Give our callous mouths back to the God of stone. Mama, pray with me for our rowdy blood, our split nerves, for what comes in the morning. Mom, I'm a woman now and it hurts to breathe. I'm a woman and I can't see. And that's my final poem. Thank y'all so much.
Kim, I feel like you brought me back on the stank face. I was like, What a tribute to your mom and to womanhood and to growing up.
Yeah.
And to what that means to move from the stage of girlhood or daughterhood into something different and how that relationship shifts.
Yeah. It's been a beautiful journey. This is, I don't know what I'm gonna write about after this, because I'm like, this has been consuming me for like 8 years. So.
Well, I can't wait to see.
Yeah.
Can you share one memory of the retreat, like a 30-second memory?
Oh, yes. This is one that's probably just going to embarrass me. One of my favorite. Ooh, no, I lied. I'm going to share a different one, because I actually, this memory makes it into a lecture that I just gave, and it's like in a bunch of essays I have now. Yes. So it was my first retreat. If y'all don't know, I didn't read any of my Jesus poems, but I'm like Jesus gang, and I'm like, faith is really big deal to me. And my first retreat, we were at the final reading. I don't even remember who all was reading, but I remember it was the year that Bettina Judd was on faculty. And literally, I was sitting next to Kerwin Sutherland, who is also an incredible poet. If you, for folks who might not have heard of him, check him out. He has a chapbook. So anywho, I'm sitting next to Kerwin Sutherland, and the energy was so palpable in the room from this reading, like folks dang near started falling out. So like the polite snaps, those were gone. And then like we got to the point where like Bettina is like doing the church, hey, like, and is like, it's like running through the crowd. And I just would never forget that reading. And I was like, oh, not y'all churchy too. And that just made my heart smile. I was like, y'all, everybody might not be Jesus gang, but y'all churchy. I was like, which I think is just an inherently Black thing sometimes.
I don't know. There's something, I don't want to say spiritual, but I feel it.
It is.
Like it just energetic. There's something energetic in those final readings. It's like,
every time.
Yeah, every time. And I'm going to talk about Lydia's moment next. But before you go, where can we find you online?
Oh, you can find me at Ajanae.com. It's my website, which is going under a major revamp soon. And Moons at Dusk everywhere else. MOONSATDUSK on Instagram and Twitter.
Moons at Dusk. And can we say a big congratulations to Ajanae and to Brittany Rogers, who are now leading us into, I don't know, a new poetic phase, I would like to say, just because of what the Versus podcast is doing and has done.
Yeah,
So I'm
thank
excited.
you.
So next up is Lydia Cortez. Now, Lydia, I have to say, Lydia, the year she came to the retreat was again one of those energetic moments at the end when everybody's reading, and she read this poem that the refrain of it was "Te juro, te juro, te juro," like I swear, I promise you, I promise you. And so it was this Spanglish poem that was a mixture of like fire and just I don't know, amazingness, to the point that for the subsequent years, probably once a year, I hit her up by Facebook or email just saying like, hey, I just wonder if you happen to find that poem. Did you find that poem? I want to publish that poem. I want to send that poem to these people, because it's one of those poems, one of those moments, one of those pieces, like experiences within art that has stuck so deep inside of me that she's moved on, but I have not let go. I have not let go of that moment. And every year I'm chasing that. I feel like I'm chasing that moment. Everybody lit on fire in the middle of this poem. She couldn't even finish it. So now I'm just gonna read you the bio, but that is my bio for Lydia, how she just came in. And so every year at the retreat, I'm always the one like, hey, whatever you write here, you need to publish it next week, because if I don't see it published, if I don't see it sent off, you cannot lose these pieces of art, these moments, these encounters with this divine energy. We can't lose them anymore. The video recording of that got lost. I just feel so much regret just in that moment, that year, that we could have captured all of that and lost it. But it'll live on in my memory and everybody else's memory. Lydia Cortez is a Williamsburg-born Puerto Rican and an author of 2 collections of poetry, Lust for Lust and Whose Place. Her work appears in the Anthology of Puerto Rican Poetry from Aboriginal to Contemporary Times, Breaking Ground, Anthology of Puerto Rican Women Writers in New York from 1980 to 2012, Monologues from the Road, Through the Kitchen Window, Teaching with Fire, In Praise of Our Teachers, and Phati'tude Literary Magazine's What's Latin a Nombre. Both her stories and poems have been published in online magazines. A story by Cortez is also published in Shale, a collection of fiction. Cortez was awarded fellowships at the Valparaiso Artists Retreat in Spain, Virginia Center for the Creative Arts, and MacDowell. So everybody welcome Lydia Cortez.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here because I had so many technical difficulties just getting on, but I'm here, and I don't know if I'm centered. I don't know how to center myself, but I guess I'm on. And thank you so much for that remembrance, Candace. That was very nice. That was quite a year. It was a wonderful experience. Thank you. Okay, and with that, I'm going to start. I'm going to read a couple of old poems, and then I have some newer work. So I'm going to start off with, I hated Lydia as a kid. Lydia's not a cute name. I looked it up. Lydia means ancient country in the northwest part of present-day Turkey on the Aegean Sea. Who could be popular with a name like Lydia? At home, they called me Lidin. What the hell was a Lidin? Then suddenly one day, my lovable sister Sonia became Sunny, as if her disposition wasn't already enough appeal for the boys. I was considered aloof. I was easily frightened, so shy. I couldn't even shorten Lydia to sound friendlier, better, more down to earth. What kind of nickname would Lyd be? That's worse than Lydia. In other languages like Spanish or Russian, Lydia sounds glamorous, pronounced Lydia. But in American English, the D is pronounced like the T in butter, how unrefined. Some say Lydia is sophisticated. Guess they never heard Groucho Marx sing, Lydia, oh Lydia, oh Lydia, oh Lydia, oh Lydia, the tattooed lady. If you want classy, isn't something like Dahlia more elegant, lighter than Lydia? I liked American names like Susie, Susan, Patty, Peggy, Peggy Sue, Jane, Mary, Mary Jane, Annie, or Connie. Not even in my dreams could I ever be blonde or blue-eyed, not as a Lydia, though even my cousin Milagros pulled at least one miracle, turning herself into a Millie. Okay, and the next one is called Obsessed with Class. Hereby I stand, not quite brown, almost white person who doesn't even look Puerto Rican, who comes from the working class. It sounds as if I'd suffered for it. Does it make me more exotic? Give me a break. Did I ever? Did my sister work like our dark papi, big-handed, red, wide-footed legs, tired veins popping from hours and days on his feet, full of corns, Ave Maria, washing dishes, short order cooking in a Jewish deli on Delancey, amen. Before that, in the fields of Peñuelas in Puerto Rico, did he cut cane or ñame or dig for yuca, amen? Was I or my sister ever humiliated for speaking an English nearly unintelligible, laughable? Later on, he toiled in his own bodega. What good fortune to find it on Park Avenue in Brooklyn, near the family's fifth floor walk up, to be able to buy the tiny store used by Los Americanos only in emergencies, since we stayed open, but back then only us Latinos used the word bodega. Now everyone, even white kids new to the city, say bodega like they invented it, and that's weird. But back in the 50s and the 60s, there was Papi, so proud of his bodega with such reverence for it. He gave the place a name as if it was one of his nenes. He christened it La Fortuna, La Fortuna. Enough of a fortune so he could send both of his girls to study at St. John's, a private college, because that's what the girls wanted, and they usually got their way. But then again, it also kept them in Brooklyn, close to La Casa y La Familia. La Niñas acted middle class, acted good enough, learned to become almost Americanas, almost. They taught themselves to get rid of the betrayal of the accent, though all was clearly seen when trusted friends came to visit and met their papi y mami. Maybe even saw, when he wasn't hidden in the back, the weird rocking brother, rocking, snapping his fingers, clickety-clack, how he made strange sounds like some unknown animal wounded. When the friends saw the shiny paint, each room a different color, the cracking plastic covering up the sectional, el sofá moderno, so Americano, the family was so proud of las nenas who had pleaded, por favor, to have it, that couch, for the papi to buy it, till mommy and papi threw up their hands and did. Ay, Dios mío, okay, que muchachas. The mommy and the papi ended up being right. Tenía razón about the couch, as the sofa sections slid apart, one from the other, cada minuto. You couldn't sit tranquilo. You had to keep adjusting, getting up, or put it back together. Then just a few months later, the sofa's skinny legs started shaking, fell off one by one under the weight of the family. And now I'm going to the newer work. And this has been influenced by a form that Jericho Brown invented called the duplex. So there are repeating lines that you'll hear. Failing the rules. The sky is failing, hysterical again, failing the rules of gravity. The rules of gravity are so serious, there's never a smile. Never a smile crossed a crack in the road. Cracked and crisscrossed lovers keep wary of decline into hell. Hell lovers keep decline. The deepest cut mother made. Mother cut the deepest. Where was the father during the slashing? Was father slashing as well? Hysterical, the sky is failing again. The sickness existed in the air. There are false traits in this photograph. In the dark, he believes he sees her lips turn up. The dark believes her lips, legally allowed to watch into other people's homes, into other homes allowed legally through a hatch. A small set of stairs led to the basement, through the stairs to the hatch. Not speaking metaphorically, the heart really rips. The heart rips, not speaking. It became clear the sickness existed in the air. The air became the sickness. After half an hour, she managed to get off the bridge. She managed off the bridge. The flock of starlings was hovering over the water. Book of Questions, after Neruda. If there are secrets to tell, for the love of me, where on earth is the green place to find the answers? In the folds of a rose or the folds of a robe, body naked underneath, waiting for discovery or simple acknowledgement? Or is gratitude the end all, the be all that gives the impulse to live, for her to believe in love and be loved as only befits a fairy tale princess in a lace dress? Or is that story so hackneyed that why wouldn't she want better for herself? Do some liberating. So she decides to study trees, climb trees, save the planet, conceal no longer her true brilliance. She now calls the enlightened amongst her friends, and splendor her new home. No need of savior, princess, of little intellect, never caring for their fellow man, only out for themselves, no roots to stand on, just a hollow shell. Who did she think he was? One often hears falsehoods. It's best to know the truth, no regrets, no secrets at this point, hallelujah, of the story. She can foresee that the best is yet to come, with no patronizing, no thieving of herself. And this is my last one. It's called The Heavy. There is a thing lingering that I can't put a finger on, but it has put a finger on me, maybe more than one, for I feel the heaviness. The hand is heavy, handed me quite a put down just as I was about to get up and go about the bravery of the yellow sloppiness of life. It takes a lot of work to live and endure. Relaxing is a job that can't just be taken for granted or left out either. You can't do one or the other, always in flux. in a flurry of tizziness. Stop and be in the now without fearing here, that you may lose the before or afterlife being in the now where you weren't when thinking about tomorrow coming before. You know it. The past has eluded you or alluded to you when you were young and beautiful, maybe. You can again be next month if you find the right potions and use religiously today and all your todays and tomorrows, but only in the here and now. Otherwise, you'll skip the wrinkles sinking into the groovy grooves or into the grooves of madness. But don't worry, that won't be today if you're not present for the happening of death. But in the meantime, you can plan a mean party to go out with a bang sometime next week in the middle. And that was the last one. I think I forgot to mention it in the beginning.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. So one thing I do want to ask you before I let you go, like, would you say that, I would say, and I'm asking if you would say the same thing, like, it seems like rhythm is really important to you. You seem to have a lot of syntactical parallelism, and then you break the parallelism in certain moments where, like, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's hard for me to talk about it, but I do use a lot of rhythm in my work, and sometimes I go from one line to the next where there's a connection from the previous line, but sometimes there's a disconnection purposely. So I don't know if that's what you mean, but I am aware that I do that, and sometimes, most of the time, I do that purposely.
Yeah, it seems very purposeful, like the flow of each line, and how sometimes the content changes and the rhythm stays the same, or the rhythm changes and the content stays the same. So it was just interesting following along and spotting that. Can you share a memory of the watering hole?
Yeah, I took like just a couple of notes because, well, that memory of that reading, that last day of the workshop, that was amazing. It was an amazing time. But I think what I think of when I think of tribe is the environment that's created for the participants. And that's created by the leadership, of course, by tribe leadership, by you and the others who run tribe. But there's the acceptance, the trust, the affirmation, the kindness, the generosity, and again, the environment that allows for and supports creativity. And then that follows through to all the participants. It just becomes, everybody's very supportive and affirmative of one another, and that comes across very clearly.
That's so lovely to hear. I'm so happy to hear that. Where can we find you online?
I don't have any online presence. You can email me. I guess that would be the best. It's El Cortes, ELCORTES 01 at AOL.com.
Okay. But do you want to plug your socials?
No, I think that's it.
All right.
But thank you very much.
Yes, no problem. Thank you. Our last reader is one of our first fellows of the Watering Hole, the very first year we had the retreat. I met DaMaris years before as a grad student who had spur of the moment gone to AWP, a big conference for literature conference, and didn't make plans for a place to stay. Like, it's very unlike me to just spur of the moment do a thing. And I met her through a friend, and DaMaris was like, "Oh, you can stay with me." And I was like, "I can't afford to stay with you in this host hotel." And she was like, "I got you, don't worry about it." And so it was amazing seeing that kind of openness and welcomingness and that kind of like tribe. It's the feeling that Monifa Lemons and I were trying to build in the watering hole, that feeling of tribe, that feeling of family. So DaMaris is the author of A Bound Woman is a Dangerous Thing, the incarceration of African-American women from Harriet Tubman to Sandra Bland, which is a 2020 NAACP Award nominee for Outstanding Literary Work in Poetry. She is author of The Fluid Boundaries of Suffrage and Jim Crow, Staking Claims in the American Heartland, Visible Textures. Hill has studied with such writers as Lucille Clifton, Monifa Love Asante, Natasha Trethewey, Nikki Finney, and others. Her development as a writer has also been enhanced by the institutional support of the MacDowell of Vermont Studio Center, Breadloaf Writers Conference, and others, including, and DaMaris, I'm going to shame you for this, including the Watering Hole. I'm going to put us, oh, there it is. It's at the bottom. Put that at the top, please, of your bio. Put that first thing so we can get full credit. Thank you. We're claiming all of the things. And similar to her creative process, Hill's scholarly research is interdisciplinary. Hill is an associate professor of creative writing at the University of Kentucky and has recently released another book of poetry called Breath Better Spent, Living Black Girlhood. And I'll go ahead and hold my copy of it up. That's it. The end. Welcome.
Thank you, Candace.
Okay.
Candace, I put the watering hole at the end where it will be most remembered.
Okay. Put it at the beginning. I'm saying this in front of everybody.
Yeah, if I put it at the beginning, then like 13 other names come before it.
The watering hole comment, DaMaris B. Hill is how I want.
Oh, that's how you want to say it. Okay. All right.
As published, and then it goes on.
Okay, I'll do that.
Thank you.
I thought you totally forgot about when we first met at AWP. I believe it was AWP DC, right? I believe it was AWP DC.
It was AWP DC. Yep, I was up there.
You was a wee baron. Were you even you were in graduate school then?
I was in my MFA program at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Wading my way through, figuring things out.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to begin my reading with poetry. It's National Poetry Month. I was going to do some other things, but I'm going to begin with poems. We are talking about North Carolina, so I am going to read a poem about Harriet Jacobs because she is from North Carolina, Edenton, North Carolina. And we're going to continue with poems. Let me watch my time. This poem is from Breath Better Spent. Hi, everybody. Thank you for checking in. Thank you for the readers that went before me. Your poetry was great. I get all nervous and forget and end up talking to Candace like it's just me and her, but we're public. So here we go with the poetry reading. Beloved Weirdo. You are not digging this book about a slave girl and her incidents. The pages read about her early knowing of all things. Meanwhile, you ain't got a stitch of sense. If you did, you would have put that book down and hit that boy, asking you if your name is beloved, and if you are going to be like Suther and kill the newborn baby he wants to put in you. Is he the weirdo watching in on you and your bestie leaving the woman's clinic? You wish you would have gone wild as the wind on him for prying. Instead, you go deaf and dumb thinking on it. Your mind wanders in a book. You think on asking, Miss Harriet Jacobs, how does a girl learn to be a slave? Does a snake bite you and leak venom until you fall crippled and spasm, zombie you into a slave? If no, then you gotta swallow a butterfly and let it flutter in your throat. Smother your words until you become a slave. Do you let the butterfly kick you way up into your tonsils? This might make your eyes rummage the floor for cracks and force you to be humble. Can a slave be made from a butterfly that avoids windows, avoids light? Does that butterfly become a bat under the girl's collar? Or do you crawl under the hoof of a horse named Andrew Jackson to become a slave? The horse galloping and neighing at your earlobes, dirt in with the blood. To be a slave, would you have to take your ribs and fashion Andrew Jackson's hooves with ivory shoes? Would the overseer use your teeth to tether, hold Andrew Jackson's shoes in like nails? In the cradle of your black, ringing neck, do you offer the nag a pedestal and curtsy at the mare's master? Just curious, not dying to know. Okay, so let's read some other poems. Still scary. Afraid of bugs, babies, pop balloons, sticky peppermints, cracks that'll break your mother's back, words that sound like windows breaking. Your heart is too fragile. Fright over voices that are pretty enough to ride rafters, lyrics that climb on ladders, afraid that a piano chord is a stairway. You scared of spiders and the old saints frying chicken in church basements, smacking on bacon with crackling rinds in the pews. You timid about every boy you ever adored and never told. You hiding from happy. You terrified of joy. Them two got heartbreaks on the horizon. Infatuation is an infliction like bed bugs creeping in like 7th grade. 35 years later, you squinting and giddy. You drooling at the luster of past lives in his shaved head. You ain't never had good sense. You ain't never know the difference between curiosity and chaos. He got you cheesing. Each of his cavities carries a cavern of stories you want to know. You tell him to gift wrap his wounds, serve them to you on a broken plate. This is a trap, an illusion, a way to convince him that you are brave. Watch him, watch you, gulp all his demons and everything that scares him. You are a woman and have done it all before. When you are 8, you follow a pack of boys into the woods to find a vine. These boys are swinging Tarzans, banging their caged hearts, tempting violent deaths. You celebrate each boy's victory. Faithfully, you forget your ride across the wild. You close your eyes, your heart open and abandoned. You did not fall or break your arm. You didn't take a second turn, refused to ride in the back of wagons. Every page carries wood, paper cuts, and toe prints, marking the spot you gripped before the jump. So I am going to read a longer poem because I have time. This book is divided into 3 parts. I'm reading right now from Breath Better Spent. The first part is histories. The second parts are semi-autobiographical. And the last part of the book is entitled In Search Of, and it talks about our beautiful brown and black girls, or our beautiful black girls, that their lives are interrupted and they don't always make it home. This poem is called Dear Christians of Alabama. I wrote this poem because most of the girls that I was writing about happen to be from Alabama. Dear Christians of Alabama, premonition. Yola D's daddy came to Birmingham because injustice is here. A walking man like Moses, like Jesus, like Paul, Yola D's daddy left his house like prophets do, early in the morning, to take his thus saith the Lord far beyond Atlanta to Alabama, carrying the gospel, good white Christians throwing grenades. Opening scene. Confederate Christians are rebel yelling into the Sabbath day. They forget to keep it holy. The Sabbath day is the day. A 3-year-old became an angel. A daughter became a headline, gobbled between religion and graven images of political purity. Black girls in Alabama must taste like fruit juice while on the vine. Are you a believer? Tell the world how the body functions. The Confederate Christians of Alabama make Eden out of baby sandals found in gutters and castles from cracked kiddie pools. In Alabama, there are chariots furnished in the scrap metals of dental braces and adjustable skates. The horse carriages drawn by jump rope. The sermons are syrupy sweet spilling, foreshadowing. Spilling, fornication, and forgiveness. Rape Black girls, gloss over the guilty, and call your elected officials righteous. Bake layers of trazodone into communion wafers. Use them like tranquilizers. Call the dosing a pacifier. Are you convinced that mental paralysis is mercy for girls? Victims, blessings served from bastards to babies. The Ark of Miracles. Confederate Christians can make you a believer. Call Alabama the promised land, overflowing with milk and honey, where the silver whiskers of the righteous, wicked men who never forget their cravings for rust are the men who manufacture rivers from the metal embers of virgins' first menses. In this land, they erect monuments of moral law. Opening dialogue. In Alabama, they tell you you are converted and convince you that good Christian fun is as good as melted butter on your tongue at a drive-thru. Teach you to be blind to the shaved shanks of Black girls tossed into popcorn tubs. Expect you to be all things grateful, willful, and ignorant. You can be all faith. Believe youth. Symbolism. The youth pastor goes to church school and tells you the shaved shanks of Black girls that are in the popcorn bins are not evidence. He will tell you what looks like Black girls is venison, seasoned to taste. He will brag about his barbecue rub, say it is an old biblical recipe, holy as the one used on Levite's concubine. Flashback. The holiest of Confederate Christians seek refuge among wicked men. He will wink at his host's daughter and offer her his sword. Just like here in Alabama, just like there in America, around the world, the heavenly host of Black girls are set out on doorposts and told to defend themselves against the fury and feast of seasoned sodomites. Static characters. To defend themselves against the fury and feast of seasoned sodomites, Sunday school girls are forced into isolation. In Alabama, Black girls are endangered as brown butterflies and need protection. The coal that is pricked into the veins of marble that boasts of moral law threatens them in the voice of Roy Moore. He carries a cotton candy scented pistol. Point of view. Roy Moore never rescued a Black girl being chopped into pieces and scattered upon the monsters of any tribe. His 10 commandments are a shanty tent hiding Alabama's shame. The beasts of Alabama roam in dark satin robes with lies in their fangs, boasting the laws of nature and of nature's God, upon which our nation began in 1776. Setting that illuminates the character. How do Confederate Christians tend to their flocks of lost daughters? Do they set them out to graze and blister in the backyards of boogeymen, billowing the 10 commandments? Do daughters feed on the shrubs set under the soles of people like Roy Moore. You hear the whimpers of Christian daughters crying out from the wilderness of polluted landfills. Allegory. Confederate Christian, where in the 10 Commandments do you take our daughters upon the mount and sacrifice them? God gave Abraham the good sense to spare Isaac and embrace the ram tussling amid the thorns. When Jacob wrestled with an angel for a blessing, he was bereft as Delilah, trying to know the strength of Samson. Connotation. Engraved in cremains, it reads, "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image." Black girls are your gods. Confederate Christians have turned scores of Black girls into leavened bread, sacrificing them. Politicians and open pedophiles are a roster of nonviolent offenders, wiping their juices on judgment's robe. Deleted chapter. Yoladee's grandma has hot flashes and dreams when she is playing the organ. There she pipes about never growing old in a rhythm and rounds of Ezekiel saw the wheel, and croons, howling, Alabama is no place for Black girls. Here, granddaughters are all ribbons and round as Reese cups at their mother's knee. Falling action. Rumor has it the Moor, his teeth are coated in fool's gold. They say if he wipes himself on a girl's clothing, her futures dip into a thimble. Moore's moral laws and commandments are 2 cupcakes wide and 1 cupcake tall when Governor K. Ivey calls for chemical castration, not as a punishment, but as a protection. Metaphor. Yoladee's daddy taught her that time was neutral. Like the Bible, time, a tool to be used either destructively or constructively, like the hateful words and actions of bad people and the appalling silence of the good. Yoladee learned from her daddy that time can be an ally for the forces of social stagnation, and joy was somewhere waiting for her because time, resolution. You should be asking, what kind of extremist are you willing to be? On Calvary's Hill, 3 men died, all crucified for the same crime, extremism. 2 were extremists for immorality, maybe pedophiles, or men who turned the 10 Commandments into a mountain of idolatry to hide their own sins. But the other, Jesus Christ, was an extremist for love, truth, and goodness. You? Okay, so we should probably take a break right there because, we got to let that set in for a minute. I should have probably read that last because I have like 7 more minutes to go. All right, everybody, let's just shimmy a little bit. Let's disrupt the tension in your body. Breathe a little bit. Inhale. Exhale. That's going to be with you for a little while. Okay. So, Candace, you should come on and ask me some questions, and then I'll read a little bit after that.
Okay. I got some questions. Kim, how are we doing on time?
I'm about 14 minutes in.
I just want to make sure we allowed to go past 8 Eastern.
Oh, I didn't know we had to stop at 8, so it's good that we stopping here. Good.
Yeah,
So I just want to get.
We can go on a little bit, but we can go on a little bit past 8. But maybe y'all want to use that time at the end to bring everyone back on to chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
let's ask questions then.
DaMaris, can you talk? See, I had it all together. Now I'm not going to say it in the best way, but let's talk about this. I'm going to call it the pursuit of the Black girl, or the defense. That's better. The defense of the Black girl. Can we talk about that and how much people be crying about it, especially in your introduction, just briefly before we bring everybody.
What do you mean? How much people be crying about? What do you mean?
Listen, I had to go through some. Me and young Candace had to go through some things in the introduction. So
Yeah. What about the introduction? What do you want me to talk about?
So now you're really gonna quiz me on it. Now I gotta go.
Right. You want to talk about how
it was like the way we grow up and forget the young versions of ourselves and how much they matter in our daily lives now, right?
Right.
It's not an imaginary thing. Like, it's a tangible thing. This girl still exists. And right now, because you were doing all these other things that she never planned to do, right? You are
that you are doing mostly in service of others.
It's abuse to her, who is you. Mm-hmm. And she's right here watching the whole thing, and also suffering from it.
Right. So I want to talk about Black girlhood like time being fluid. And because of certain systemic and oppressive constructions and culture, Black girls, because of age, often because of race and because of gender, many times because of economic status, find themselves isolated among an intersectional identity group that reflects them, usually only spanning 2 to 4 years. So Black girlhood can be some people would perceive it as an isolating time, but I think of it as a very nurturing time, because some of the social structures have not considered Black girls at the forefront of invention of games, toys, and activities. The creative power of Black girls is explosive, is nuclear, and generates joy and activities in those groups all of the time. Those are also groups where we not only find affirmation, which seems to be what a lot of people are seeking today, but it's a think tank of negotiating social power. It is a think tank of figuring out how to get what you and your Black girl self wants and needs. It is a think tank to let you know what adults are your allies, and also what boys and men around are your allies. It's a place where creativity abounds. And in the process of going from girlhood, in the process of socially moving because of age from girlhood into womanhood, a lot of those things become the sacrificial ram. Because going from girlhood to womanhood is very much about assimilation into a cultural and social structure that has never put your needs at the forefront of its judgment. That's it.
I'm letting that one marinate. That was too heavy for me to come behind and be like, so share a memory about the watering hole. Like, it was, gotta let that one sit.
I will share a memory about the watering hole, though. I meant to read it, but I didn't get a chance to. But the poem in this book, How the Tongue Holds, was done in what began in a workshop with Ramika Bingham.
Ramika Bingham-Risher.
Yes, Bingham-Risher, sorry. Yep, it began there.
Okay.
I love Ramika too. It began there like in 2000, maybe even 2013. And making it to the page in 2022.
Beautiful. See, everybody you got to save these little scraps. I got to go find my notebooks as well. Where can we find you?
I was just going to say, do you want me to bring the other two authors on here in just a second?
In just a second. But DaMaris, where can we find you online?
Oh, always look at DaMarisHill.com. You can find me on Instagram and a bunch of places. If you type DaMaris Hill writer, DaMaris Hill about woman. You can find me on Twitter, DaMaris Hill. You can find me on Facebook, DaMaris B Hill. And there.
Okay, beautiful. Let's bring everybody back on now. Thank you all so much for coming and repping the watering hole and repping hard and doing all that. And also the way your work kind of communicated with each other was a beautiful experience to journey through with you guys. Can you say one more thing about just where you are and where, I guess, what you're working on now and where you're moving forward to? We'll start with Ajanae and go in the same order.
I was like, maybe somebody else will go first and give me time to think about it. So right now I am finishing my MFA. I'm also getting my MDiv. And I am the new host of one of the new hosts of Versus Podcast with the Poetry Foundation. I'm also the theology editor for Eco Theo, and working on finishing my first collection so I can hopefully move into some fiction and some other things, a lot of which have been inspired by the watering hole, including Ramika Bingham-Risher. I literally have the galley for her new book sitting right here. So, yeah.
Awesome. Lydia?
Yeah, right now I'm working on.
I gotta say it in the beautiful way, Lydia.
That's beautiful. Yes, I'm working right now on a book, poetry book. I think it's going to be a hybrid though with some prose in it as well, and it's about the late poet and playwright Pedro Pietri, who was a New Yorican poet, and he passed. Well, he late poet, so yes, he passed away about 10 years ago. So that's it. I just want to say I enjoyed very much listening to Johnny's work and to DaMaris's work. Thank you for presenting, and I'm very happy to have Reg with you.
Beautiful. DaMaris, what are you working on? Where are you going?
Oh, I'm supposed to be working on an essay. I am working on an essay. I'm working on an essay. I need to be working on my next book, putting some things together. I'm working on an essay about I guess Blackness in Kentucky, but Bell Hooks centers a lot on that for me. So it's about 80, 85, 88% finished. But that means it's gonna need another 2 months or something, 2 or 3 months.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you guys. Thank you for being here, for repping the watering hole. I'm gonna pass the mic back to Kim, who is going to take us home.
Thank you.
Great. Thank y'all so much for such a wonderful reading. Thank you, Candace, for being these talented poets from the watering hole onto our stage tonight. As I said, we're going on hiatus, but please follow us on YouTube at Carolina Poets, and check us out on our website, whichsinpoetry.com. Thank y'all, and I hope everyone has an amazing night and happy National Poetry Month. And thank you again, Candace.
Bye.
Bye.